Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
The shows are back in town.
The shows are back in town. Yes, they are. Welcome back.
It is so weird.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, for the MCU, it was legit like a year, and then even though the Arrowverse shows finished up in the spring, they were cut short because of the pandemic. You know, it seemed longer.
It's been over a year for the MCU, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Over, because the last one was Spider-Man Far From Home, and that was July.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half for anything MCU, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And then, waking up this morning and having to buy season 2 of Batwoman, it just was bizarre to me because, we're finally here, and this is a very anticipated show for Will and I.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I haven't had to buy a season of television in a while, you know?
Yeah.
I was getting ready to message you and saying, like, so why isn't this on HBO? Why can't, I feel like streaming services for the last 6 months have kind of taken over my world, and I haven't really had to think about it, but now I'm like, oh, great, the buy-in TV seasons.
Oh, I know. I had to double check my DVR I still have cable, so I had to double check to make sure my DVR was set for Batwoman, because I didn't want to miss it. I mean, of course I know I could stream it on CW the next day, but I was so ready to watch it last night because I've really missed the show, and I was just really excited about seeing Javicia take over the lead too. So I don't want us to get too deep into the discussion, because I know we have a couple other things we want to talk about. But yeah, it's great that things are back.
Yeah, I mean, January, it's been funny because I know you and I talked about this last time, I think, about how we were part 2 of the big Arrow crossover.
Yeah.
This time a year ago.
Yeah.
And now it appears that the Arrowverse crossover has been canceled due to COVID, which was expected, but it's very interesting because I felt like at the beginning of COVID, we were hearing all of this information about the crossover because with Arrow being gone, Supergirl being announced leaving, they're having to introduce these new characters, not to mention Black Lightning as well. So they were going to use a crossover this year to kind of launch them. But man, CW have just been juggling a lot of changes, not only in their lineup, but in their cast and now COVID. And it's just like, we're not gonna do that this year.
Yeah, I saw that. I guess the president of CW Entertainment made that announcement last week, and that because originally, you're right, because originally I think there was going to be the Superman and Lois, and I think Batwoman crossover, and then of course because of just the complexities of trying to film all these shows and keeping cast in quarantine and bubbles and those kind of things, they had to scrap it. So and it was and we've talked about it before, how Herculean an effort it is just to do these crossovers anyway, because you're juggling multiple cast and production schedules and all that kind of stuff. So clearly with the pandemic now, that's just not going to be able to happen this year.
Well, let's be honest. The creative is a bit strained after the last one, because the last one sucked. I was really mad at the last one. I don't even think I watched them. I watched all the episodes. I have yet to ever go back and rewatch. And I honestly don't want to, just because I remember thinking how much trash it was. For whatever reason, and maybe because it was following such a classic crossover with the What If that happened the previous year, but Crisis on Infinite Earths, I just it was just let's not. I'm not. I'm gonna start thinking about that crossover. My feelings.
Let's move on from that.
Yeah, let's move on. But right when things are getting started, we get more information about things being pushed back, and it seems that the Flash is gonna have a delay to their start.
Yeah. So last night during the Batwoman season premiere, there, CW always does their little, advertising and show, and there was the advertising 2-hour event for Superman and Lois. And then, of course, I saw on Twitter, I think Bam Smack Powell and some others also started speculating about what's going on with the Flash. And when you go to the Flash's Twitter page now, they updated it from February 23rd to now coming soon. So I haven't seen any. I've been looking today. I haven't seen anything more about when it's coming back, and a lot of people are speculating, oh, it's just going to be a week. But when they say coming soon, you have to wonder what's going on. And remember, they did have some delays due to COVID impacting the production. So I don't know if that's part of it, or if they're just really trying to do an event kind of launch with Superman and Lois, given that maybe they are looking to have this show sort of be the tentpole and get into the whole legacy of Superman kind of thing, like they did with how they ended with Supernatural. So who knows? But what's going to happen with that, or if they're going to do back to back, episodes 1 and 2 with the Superman and Lois. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, coming soon has a whole new meaning for us. To me, coming soon now means 2022. It'll be that.
Maybe it'll just be delayed until maybe March. Maybe right. Who knows? Yeah, because I think the president of CW did say they were going to try to get things realigned again in the fall. So with their show lineup. So, and it said they're planning on doing full season orders with all these shows too. So they can't push it back too far.
Yeah. Well, they could and just not have the season.
They could just be like, wait, we're just going to hold it till October.
Yeah. I don't know. It's TV. It's going to be interesting this next year because a lot of seasons and shows that got pushed back or delayed, all of these decisions are going to be made. Well, how many episodes do we give them this year? Mm-hmm. While an attempt is made to realign everything in this upcoming fall,
right?
Which is fascinating because it's a similar situation to the movie theaters and the producers at that level, and all of this pushback about things coming out simultaneously in theaters and on demand. Yep. TV has their own issues to work through because of just the natural order of things.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's interesting that this is mainly happening with The Flash and none of the other shows seem to be as affected. Yeah. But I kind of like that in a way we're getting a fresh start with the new Batwoman, Superman and Lois, and really holding back on our vets kind of until later, just because we're used to them. I mean, I can only pick on Barry so much. Kara is such a hit and miss.
Yep, it's true.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, hopefully the way the Supergirl trends, we are due for a good season, hopefully to go out on a high note, not like Drew Brees did last night during the Saints and the Buccaneers game last night. So we shall see.
We shall. In some MCU news, Ethan Hawke is set to join in Moon Knight as the villain. Do we know who he's cast as?
I've seen a couple speculations out there. No, so yeah. So only thing I know, the only thing that I have read, I think it was maybe in a Hollywood Reporter, that he is cast as the villain. There was like they're going to supposedly start filming in March in Budapest. So So, we have different, you and I remember Budapest a lot differently, but, there's that. I did see some speculation on that he may be Spectre's brother, I think, which would be, and there's also another character, I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head that I saw, but bottom line, Ethan Hawke is joining the MCU, and again, they just continue to bring in just amazing talent for these products.
It is an odd name, very odd name, but I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad. He's even though he hasn't done comic book movie genre, he does have a pretty extensive record as far as doing sci-fi films. So yeah, and I think that what I'm noticing is that what makes MCU really special and stand out is their casting, and this is not like direct shade at DCEU because they do it to an extent as well, but when they casted the villain, it's not. I'm always caught off. I'm typically caught off guard, or it's a newcomer, or it's somebody who generally doesn't play in a villain role. So Mads Mikkelsen, I guess you could say, would be their one-off, but I don't really count Doctor Strange because I haven't seen it. But anyway.
Yeah. Or you have Robert Redford too, though. So
speaking about filming, I had a segue and then I just went off course. Oh well. Charlie Cox has allegedly finished filming his scenes in the new Spider-Man movie, and so he's being harassed by everyone asking, "Is this person in it? Is this person in it? Is this person in it? Can we get a confirmation?" When I'm just happy that he's in it. I do think it's lame that he's already finished filming his scenes because I don't know how. That's not a good sign in my perspective, my very limited perspective on his role. But I'm just happy he's there.
Yeah. Well, again, it may be Daredevil, it may be a Daredevil, it may not be the Netflix Daredevil, it may be a different one, it could be a different character altogether. Yeah.
Don't ruin things for me. Like, what the heck are you talking about? Not Netflix Daredevil. Just because you refuse to watch the show doesn't mean
I'm just putting it out there. They're embracing the multiverse in the MCU. So
no, we do not touch. We do not touch Charlie. Okay, Charlie stays who he is and his version. Okay. But if you do want to do some mixing and matching, just bring John Bernthal back.
Okay. There you go.
Then Karen too.
Karen
and him should kiss.
Well, the way people have been throwing out casting rumors for this particular film, who knows at this point if what's real and what's fake, and I'm sure Kevin Feige's just sitting back and just kind of laughing at it all, and he's wants, so.
Well, okay, so this bit of news caught me off guard when I started seeing it on my timeline, but Chris Evans has pretty much signed a line and is coming back to the MCU.
News to me. Okay. That was his response, so.
Oh, that was his response?
That was his response. So, so that afternoon, because Deadline, I think, was the ones who first reported it, that he was coming back to the MCU. And then Chris sent 2 tweets later in the day. One was like news to me with the shrug emoji. And then the second tweet was just how he appreciated all the GIFs that people were like putting out there about the news of him allegedly returning to the MCU.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of was hesitant to believe it to begin with, just because it's very well known that he is likely not to come back like a few others. But then again, I mean, right now, actors and jobs and everything, everyone I'm sure has a whole new perspective on their career, and I'm sure he's looking at what Tom Hiddleston is doing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go hang out with Anthony and Sebastian some more.
Yeah, totally. I'll film another PSA.
Anything?
I mean, it could just be that. I mean, it honestly could just be another PSA, like in a future Phase 4 film.
Yep, it could be. We don't really know, but
Yeah.
we do have some Phase 4 TV to talk about to kind of kick things off. WandaVision premiered. Dropped 2 episodes, half hour, a lot of credits.
Yeah, a lot of credits.
I was looking at the runtime, and when the episodes ended, I'm like, we got like 10 minutes of credits. That's so evil to say this is a 30-minute episode. I'm like, no, it's not. It's 25 minutes.
It's like 25. Yeah, I guess the first one was like, what, 20? I think it said 25-minute runtime, and the second was 36 minutes. But yeah, you're right. The credits went on and on. I was like, okay. And, and given that as Marvel, I was like, I can't like not watch the credits because something will always show up.
Yeah. I was very worried about that, so I did the same thing, and I regret it. Because yes, okay, here's the beauty. This is on a streaming service, so if you don't, and then find out that there was, you can always go back and watch it.
Yeah, true.
It'll show up.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? What are your first thoughts on WandaVision premiere?
So first thoughts, first episode, I watched it, and honestly, I it was one of those things where I appreciated them going there as far as trying something different, as far as taking these 2 characters that honestly, I liked Wanda and Vision in the films, but they weren't like characters I really like. Well, Wanda more so than Vision. They were characters that I really didn't really have a rooting interest for. Whatever, they were there, they were part of the story, but I wasn't like, oh, I gotta find out more about these people. So going into it and then watching it, and then I appreciated all the beats that they tried to do, bringing up all the classic sitcoms. And I know many podcasts have like beat that to death, so I'm not going to do that here. But I did. So, I was like, okay, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, but it didn't grab me, honestly. I was like, okay, this is interesting. It was okay. I wasn't like, oh God, this is the best thing ever. Right. But, and then the second episode, I actually fell asleep. So, I mean, I did.
Show?
Yeah. I'm just going to be honest. I did. And I went back, because I was just tired or whatever. But I watched it the next day. I did like it, but I gotta be honest. I mean, it's I'm enjoying it because, one, I've just missed the MCU so much because it has been, like we said, over a year that we've had any content from them. But it's not. But if I get spoiled online, I'm not going to be torn up about it.
Guys, don't listen to him, okay? Because by saying that, somebody's going to spoil what happens at the very, very end, which is going to be this huge thing.
Yeah.
It's still
then I'll be pissed. Yeah. Don't. That's just for me. Don't do that to Sarah. Just do that to me. I don't. Maybe as the remaining 7 episodes go, I will grow into it. But right now, I could take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same wavelength as you are. I didn't fall asleep, but I pretty much tuned out of the second episode. I would like to say that the problem is, okay, let me restart. I'm going to say that they fully committed, and
Mhm.
we knew this going into it, that they were doing this spoof on the sitcoms and this fantasy Pleasantville world that Wanda or someone else has created for
Mhm.
them to live in, and for her to feel like she didn't have that idea of love taken away from her, which she did in very pivotal moment in the MCU.
Mhm. Yeah,
Because she owned Infinity War.
she did.
That movie, I mean, I've seen that movie so many times, and her character, you're right, up until that movie, you're like, okay, whatever. Her
Mhm.
brother died.
Yeah, yeah.
But in that movie, even I'm blanking on her name from Wakanda, but she makes a comment like, "We kept her up there.
Yeah.
She
Oh
can
yeah.
wreck
Oh yeah.
shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
She can wreck shop." Which the thought did come to mind while I was watching WandaVision. I want to know who would win, Wanda or Captain Marvel, in a
Yeah.
fight. I do.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to WandaVision. So I think that they fully committed, and I can't be mad at them for that. But I am mad that they gave us 2 episodes and nothing spectacular. I need the next episode now happened,
Mhm.
which is very different from The Boys.
Mhm.
Because last week we were talking
Yes.
about this, that we've seen this kind of design before where you give the first few episodes and then you do one a week.
Yeah.
It worked perfectly with The Boys because the first 3 episodes, I remember the first 2 was like a lot of talk, a lot of setup, and then the third one ended in a way where you were just like, okay,
Yeah.
I understand what's going on here. This
Mhm.
is going to get intense.
Mhm.
And that didn't happen. There were hints. The one moment in the first episode that I was thoroughly engaged in was the dinner scene where the guy is choking.
Yeah.
That was such a haunting thing to do, and how that all played out, and this idea that they started questioning where they were and what was happening because of that. And looking back, a lot of old TV shows
Yeah.
has those kind of moments where there's always this conspiracy speculation about, oh, that was actually really dark if you think about it in this way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
So I really appreciated that, and then I appreciate that moment in the second episode with the beekeeper,
Mhm.
and I love what they did. Help me, Wanda! Help me, Wanda! Help me!
Yeah.
I thought that was so clever.
That was
But
clever.
those are moments,
Yeah.
and they were like flashes in a pan. They didn't stick. They didn't like, oh, now we're getting somewhere. They were just, it felt like a big tease.
Yeah. It did feel like a tease, and it definitely like. I mean, I'm sure when we get to episode 9, and we'll go back and we'll be like, oh, that was the purpose of the beekeeper. Oh, that was the purpose of Mr. Hart choking at the dinner table. But in these isolated moments, you're right. It's just sort of like, okay, these are good bits, but how does this fit into the overall whole of this series?
Yeah. And there has been so much discussion about this show leading up to the show that I kind of feel like I already know how it's building.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even more frustrating for me, because I'm like, in my mind, I'm deconstructing, okay, why did this fall flat? Well, they didn't, they're holding back, and if they're holding back, that's fine. But why release 2 subpar episodes, and hopefully the third one kind of really builds momentum.
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm just going to be mad because they should have released the first 3.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's a good point. I think, and it was one of the things that I was looking back now in the MCU desert that I had in 2020. I really should have, with this series coming forward, I wish I had watched some of those films over again because I think there are multiple Easter eggs that are in there. I mean, obviously there's the toaster with Stark. There's the moment with when Wanda and Dottie are together at the event where they were planning for the big talent show, and you hear the radio, and I think it's probably Agent Wu from
Yep.
from Ant-Man. So, and then there's sword, and of course, remember what's seeing the sword and in the I can't remember which scene it was, but you saw all those references to, like, it goes back to Captain Marvel and also Spider-Man Far From Home, and so there's things that all these little nuggets all throughout this show that are like, okay, here. Again, I think to what we were discussing earlier, I think there's a lot of these like points in time throughout that we've had from the first 3 phases that I guess this show will lead us into phase 4, because clearly, Vision, the one thing that is a constant here, Vision is dead. I mean, they didn't like pull anything sleight of hand or tricky with us here. It's very clear Vision is dead. From Endgame, he remains dead. Seeing Monica Rambeau, clearly this is after Endgame, whatever.
Is it Rambeau or Rambo?
Rambo, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was
Rambo.
I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
No, you're right. That was a mispronunciation on my part, but pardon me there. But yeah, it's clear that this is after Endgame, and so and with as we laughed about the credits and who's watching this thing. I mean, is it Sword? Is it? I mean, is with her placement there, is it Sword that's watching over Wanda right now? Is she building this construct to help her deal with the aftermath of Vision's passing, or is it more?
I like how that's the question.
Yeah.
The question that they keep asking, because it's definitely what's his face. But he keeps asking, who's doing this to you, Rhonda? Who's doing this to you, Wanda?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're off tonight, but and I like that question because there's 2 things. Well, we know that Catherine, I forget the actress name. I'm forgetting everything tonight. But she is supposed to be a villain and potentially could be controlling this.
Mm-hmm.
However, Wanda being Wanda and some of the comic book storylines, a lot of us are kind of honestly hoping that it really is Wanda who's creating this manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she's getting a little bit of support. She doesn't really understand it.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it. Like it furthers that confusion of who really is controlling this and why and how did they get there. But we'll see.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, but I think the way that these first 2 episodes were rolled out. I mean, if you're obviously if you're an MCU stan, you're gonna just love it. I'm a big MCU fan, but you're right. The boys, looking back when they did their drop this way, definitely gave you that like, oh shit, I gotta like, I can't wait till like next week because I really want to watch the next episode. Whereas here I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna get up at like some people at 3 a.m. when this drops on Disney Plus. And I must see it like as soon as it comes on. If I don't get to it Friday night, if I don't get till Saturday, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna feel bad about that at this point. At this point. Now, I may, talk to me in a few episodes. Maybe I'll be in a different place.
Yeah. I think we're being critical of it because right after this dropped, we got to see Batwoman launch its second season with a new lead, a new character. And so they had a lot of work to do, basically a reset on their entire series.
Yep.
Due to Ruby's exit last year, shortly after following the first season.
Yep.
So, and this episode 1 of season 2 of Batwoman, like, the showrunner is just truly someone who I want running other shows at this point. Like, this woman clearly understands how to open a show, make me feel like I don't have to watch the first season, yet does not bore me, because it's not, oh, remember when this happened? Remember what this happened? It's the freaking subtlest things that they are able to embed in this for me to be like, okay, all right, I see what you did there.
Yep.
We'll get to Mary because there's something I'm dying over. But I love that the showrunner, she really made it a point to say, you think that we're going to fail because Ruby left. You think that we can't bring on this new lead. We can't change everything, but also leave everything the same.
Yeah.
Like, it was a very bizarre experience of starting off the season with Ryan and Kate's absence and just feeling like we never left.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And I think, not to throw any shade on Ruby, but the way this show started this second season, one, I think I can't add anything more what you said about how Caroline Dries and the awesome work she did and dealing with having to do a reset.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that really came through to me watching last night's episode, as they're bringing in a new lead with Ryan and Javicia, but all the other cast members, Rachel, Cameras, Nicole, Megan, all of them, it really showed how really they held that show up last year.
Yeah.
It was truly an ensemble show. And it really came across watching them with the season premiere this year. And yes, Kate, clearly groundbreaking, lead as far as her character, but it really did expose the, I guess, issues, to put it softly, that we actually did chronicle during our recaps of those episodes last year. So I don't want to look back too much, because I really, I was really amazed and really see how I love the potential for this show moving forward, because it honored the past and it kept the door open. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but also we started already turned a corner to establishing our new Batwoman in Gotham City.
Yeah. I mean, the show kicks off with Gotham raining jet parts. And I don't know about you, but I was not immediately thinking, oh, that's how they're going to do it.
Yeah, I didn't either. I
did not guess that. But I liked how in that first opening sequence of Mary and Luke trying to find Kate, they mention, oh, well, is she back from National City? And right then I'm like, National City, interesting. That's where Kara lives.
Right.
But even then, I wasn't thinking kryptonite because it's been a long time since the last episode of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she, which I thought was very clever because knowing they set up so freaking much in that season finale.
It did.
So to have that all be about that build up being about kryptonite is the only thing that can penetrate the Batwoman suit. And that's what Alice needed to figure out a way to destroy her sister. And we find out later on in this episode the entire villainous plan, which, makes a lot of sense for Alice.
Yep.
But that's what she went. And there was a discussion. Well, we have this piece because of the previous year's crossover. Oh my God, there's so many freaking lines.
Yep.
But this episode, they really dealt with the setup of the kryptonite and trying to resolve it, but they didn't really resolve it because there's still a piece in Ryan, and we'll see where that leads to later on. But also, Tommy Elliott has the face of Bruce Wayne, and so they also had to push that forward and see that through, and resolve that all while trying to do so much freaking else.
Yeah.
I can't get over how many things happen in this episode.
It was a lot. They really could have easily had a 2-hour season premiere or break this up as a 2-parter or something. Because they did set up, they did have a lot of loose ends that they had to deal with from the previous season.
A lot of loose ends and a lot of things to rework for Ryan.
Yeah.
And so I think that it was very clever. I mean, one of my big questions was, okay, Alice and Kate, like the yin and the yang, the sisters separated. How do you take Kate out of that, reinsert someone else and have it be the same? And so what I thought was very clever is they had Alice's gang. Now, Alice didn't do it.
Nope.
Her gang did. And so I'm sure that that's going to be a reason for Alice to live another day. But her gang did kill her mom and basically ruin Ryan's life.
Yeah.
Ruin her life.
Yep.
Everything she had worked for, gone in a moment. And so she's on a vengeance to take Alice down because of that. And when she finds the suit in the aftermath of the airplane crash, that's her mission. I'm going to find that. And what I really loved is when Mary said, I get why she's doing this, because her mother died in her arms and was killed by Alice, which happened in the first season to Mary.
That's exact. Yep.
Oh my God. I would have never, because that's just an iconic episode from season 1. So
it is. Yeah.
Callbacks to that. I love them all day, every day. So I love that. But I also like how Sophia, who's a name we started hearing towards the end of the first season, is brought up, because I didn't expect it because of the recent announcement that Black Mask was joining. So I thought that they were going there.
Yep.
But towards the end, Alice receives a note from Sophia about potentially having been the one to crash Kate's plane.
Yep.
But no, we do not know if she was on the plane, which is another thing, Will. Another thing that I would have never thought they would have done, but they did do. For the Kane family, this is another Kane daughter lost in a river. Oh my God.
Yeah. Love the parallels. I mean, because Jake, because Commander Kane, Alice, now Kate, River, that's just beautiful. I mean, it's just really, really good storytelling again how they take these through lines from the first season, bring them into the second season, and really, still give relevance to the Kane story, even though Kate's no longer, Kate's shadow is always going to be over the series. I mean, it's just inescapable. But you're right. I like the way you framed it, the way they brought those through lines from the first season into the second season, as far as the parallels between Kate and Alice.
Yeah, I mean, we have yet to see them go toe to toe. That will be the true test, because Rachel Scarston just outacts pretty much everyone on the show, and so I will be very curious. For when she goes toe to toe with Javicia. Especially when Javicia gives a monologue to just destroy all other monologues in this character. So.
Okay, that was my one area of the episode that I did kind of cringe, but
really?
Yeah.
You didn't like it?
It just felt kind of tropey as African American, we know the statistics, we know that, and I know what they were trying to do as far as like do the classism thing here, where you have the privileged Canes, and then you have the poor minority kind of thing, and and it's just, that was the one place where I thought they did go to the lazy playbook to like do this story. Now, I mean, granted, I guess my point is you could do it, but not in the monologue kind of like way. It could have been more organic, or let it come through other ways. I mean, like I thought whenever she was, for example, when she was meeting with her probation officer, that seemed a very natural story way of just making the point about her background and all the challenges that she has had to overcome without it's just so being on the nose. I mean, it's good. I mean, those things need to be said. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes I think I just felt like it was just way too on the nose for me as a viewer than I thought the other ways that it had sort of been fleshed out in the episode worked better for me. So that was my one area where I thought, that's the only area where I was like, all right, CW, you're doing your preachy CW thing, but that was the only place where that it got to me a bit.
I cringed more with lame Wayne, but that's a whole nother issue. I mean, the actor who plays Tommy Elliott, I think, is just a great actor. So
yeah, he is. Yeah.
But I do agree with you that I don't necessarily blame the words so much as the delivery was weird, because she sounded so different in that moment than any other places, and so it felt almost out of character.
Yeah, totally.
I also wonder if it would have been different had she not been saying those to two other minorities.
Yeah, that's true. Now both, but because I mean Luke. I mean, well, but Luke had a pretty privileged life himself. I mean, he's Lucius Fox's son, so he was Bruce Wayne's right hand guy.
True.
And Mary, also. I mean,
and their privilege both cost them their parents, but yes, very true.
Yeah. So maybe maybe they were the ones who needed to hear that. Now that we're talking about it more, so because check because Luke definitely had a lot of issues with Ryan, clearly, and it was very one he's very he was already, he was always possessive about the equipment, Batman equipment anyway, even with Kate. But now, especially with someone who in his eyes, he is not, he in his own way, he's looking down on her. And right. So, and yes, Mary and Ryan definitely had that connection with losing their mothers to violent acts of crime. But again, she is still, Commander Kane's stepdaughter, and the Crows are a very well-off organization, and Kane, and Wayne's first cousin, so they're not hurting as far as money. So from that standpoint, yeah. So looking at it from that vantage point, as we discussed, even though tonally, I think you're right. It did seem a little out of character with everything else up for the rest of the episode, but maybe it was the message that they needed to hear, so that when they do start formulating that team down as the season progresses, it'll be that kind of foundational come to Jesus moment that Ryan needed to have with Luke and Mary.
Yeah, well, it was definitely a moment that stuck out for Ryan, because then she goes and reads more information about who Kate Kane was.
Mm-hmm.
And which was a pretty interesting scene, because it felt like, I like the editing choices made, because I like the overlays and the contrast, and it was pretty seamless. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm not wrong. At the end, when Sophie's reading the letter, that is not Ruby's voice.
That's not. No.
Okay.
I was listening carefully. I was like, that doesn't sound. I mean, it's close, but it's not quite there.
I didn't even think it was close. I was listening and I was just like, I'm supposed to think this is Kate. But if I remember correctly,
maybe
Ruby has a very low voice.
Yeah. Kate in a bat suit, reading it. Yeah. Which actually, that was another nice touch too, because I always wondered about the bat suit, and it was an automatic thing. If there was a voice modulator in there, so seeing Ryan's voice change when she was wearing the bat suit was a nice little touch. And then also just going back to Bat lore from previous films with Batman '89, and also thinking of Batman Begins whenever she encountered the two thugs in the alley, and she goes boo, and I thought of Michael Keaton and Christian Bale there with those moments in their scene where whenever they were first introduced themselves as Batman to those two other criminals who were about to get theirs handed to them.
Yeah, I just was like, Ryan, this is not gonna go how you want it to go.
Yeah.
You got a lot that suit is way more powerful than you realize, and it actually, now that I think about it, it kind of is like when Peter Parker puts on the glasses that Tony left behind in Far From Home.
Yeah, that's another one too. Yeah, that's another. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. What do you mean, missiles? What's going on? Oh man. Anything else you want to say about Batwoman?
Yeah, can't wait. I love to see the Batmobile. Just again, getting back to touches from previous iterations of the show and movies, with the flame firing out of the back of it when it was leaving the Batcave, and those are just those nice touches that really connects this show to the larger lore of the character of Batman and Batwoman. Those are just little nods that are appreciated. I mean, I literally did just jump out of the seat. I was like, yes, awesome, man! I can't wait for seeing Ryan take the Batmobile, and then also just the rage of Ryan whenever she was confronted Tommy and literally beat the mask right off of him. It really again shows her pain and the things that she is dealing with the loss of her mother. And so, and really we'll be looking forward to seeing how they explore that over the course of the season. And of course, that eventual showdown between her and Alice. Because, since Alice was there the night that her mother was murdered by Alice's gang, that's definitely going to be something that will be a very monumental moment in this show. And then of course Alice just untethered from Kate now. Gosh, I mean, she's just gonna be batshit crazy, more so. So
yeah, I still, my money's on what I predicted a while back about how when they do confront each other, it's going to be from the perspective where Alice has always had a crutch of I was supposed to have this life that Kate got, and I didn't because nobody saved me from the river that day, and I ended up in a demented person's family and learned all of this stuff, and everything I was forgotten about, poor me, victim, and which is juxtaposed to Ryan, where Ryan also was, through the course of unfortunate events, all of a sudden it's just like everything I was working for got taken away from me.
Yeah.
But I didn't choose to start a gang and just commit myself to criminal behavior. No, I've committed myself to being a hero, a protector of justice. So I think I still am betting that they're going to go there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think you're right. And as we learn more about Ryan's backstory and how she ended up in the circumstance that she found herself in, we'll show that she's truly hero for that will take up the mantle of Batwoman in Gotham City.
Yep. And we also over the weekend watched One Night in Miami, which is available on Amazon Prime. Will, what are your thoughts about this movie?
Oh God, where do I begin? I loved that movie. I really did. I mean, it was based off of a play, the same name, and Regina King was the director of this particular film. The woman's amazing. She can do so many things. But it took place after, it was based on an actual event of after Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad, later known as Muhammad Ali, had just defeated Sonny Liston to become heavyweight champ. And so Cassius, Sam Cooke, Malcolm X, and Jim Brown, who was very famous football player, but then later became actor, and still with us today of the four, met in a hotel in Miami, and it basically is conjecture about what they discussed and what happened that night in that hotel. And it was just a very just powerful, so many things. I mean, that people, that these individuals went through. I mean, Bo Bridges was like cast as, and their particular failures that they had, but also their successes. Like, for example, Sam Cooke bombing at the Coca Cabana, and Malcolm's disenchantment with Elijah Muhammad and what was going on in the Nation of Islam, and Ali's getting punched in the ring and seeing the lights, because he was just dancing, and he was like that moment of vulnerability that that this bravado character that we all know and love has, and then Jim Brown and dealing with the racism that he had to deal with in the NFL. And so it was just a powerful film, and just a couple things, just several scenes that stand out. I don't want to spoil it for folks. I really want you to go check it out, but I mean, it just it's only about 2 hours long, and really, it's really a story that, I think in these times in particular, I think really resonates. Will resonate for anyone that watches it with an open mind. So can't recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, I think I really like the writing of it because, like what you said, the strength is that these are all flawed characters. And there's moments when you feel as though one side is right, one side is wrong in these arguments that these four people are having. But at the end of the day, they all have their own experiences and their own journey. And so, of course, by talking about it and coming together and having an honest discussion like that, you are going to start to change people's perspectives. But then again, they're also going to stay true to what they believe and how they perceive doing their part is. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because that is honestly what people who are friends, but also are able to have those kind of open discussions about and debates, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, in particular, like the debates that Malcolm and Sam Cooke, who's played by Leslie Odom, who, of course, folks know from Hamilton, and then Aldous Hodge played Jim Brown, and
he's been in a lot of things.
He's been a lot of. He was amazing as Jim Brown. He sounded like Jim Brown multiple times. I was like, wow, he's like channeling Jim Brown. And then the actor who played Malcolm X, I mean, he really looked many scenes where I was like, damn, that's Malcolm. And
he played Barack Obama in the Comey Rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to God, throughout this movie, I kept hearing Barack Obama and not Malcolm the entire time.
Yeah, I started the Comey Rule. I need to finish that. And then,
but more importantly, in Love Story or Love Life with Anna Kendrick. But yeah. I think that is it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will and Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. But most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.